Welcome to our office hour. What is this about? For those of you who don't know, we will give you a short introduction of what's new. We will do a Q&A session, and we will mention some resources that you can use when getting into app development. What I also want to mention, as you can see, we are super happy to answer any questions that you have. The webinar session has a Q&A button. It's in the small bar from Zoom, and there's a part that says Q&A, and it has like a little speech bubble on it. If you have any questions, click on that and ask us anything that you want to about app development. We can't tell you if the Easter Bunny actually exists or not. Yeah. So yeah, let's dive right into it. What's new? First of all, for those of you who enjoy this format, the next office hours for Dynatrace app development will be on Tuesday, April the 16th, again at the same time, in the same place, or almost the same place. As always, you can sign up via the community and join us for the webinar. Sini will probably also be part again of our other office hour format that I'm not sure if they have a name yet, but they will be on April 9th, right?
Yeah, so we call them just Dynatrace Office Hours and more generic office hours, and every office hour has a topic. So has a topic. Last month's topic was Grail permissions. Yeah, and for next month we have not yet decided for the topic, and the advertising is not yet out, but yeah, as soon as it is out, we will also see it in the Dynatrace community.
Cool, yeah, so keep your eyes peeled if you're interested, and there is very valuable content to be had there as well. Next up, let's talk a little bit about our new releases. This is the schedule. I will go through it quickly, and then I'll be switching over to my desktop view to actually show you live about the news that have happened. Yeah, so first of all, we'll take a very short peek at the Inside Dynatrace Apps playlist. The second episode is out now. We will have a look at the Strato releases. We'll do an overview of the last quarter. So some of this information you might already have heard, but we thought, hey, you know, repetition makes perfect. And yeah, we'll just like to show you again what's been new over the last quarter. Maybe you've also lost track of what's already possible. And we also hope to give you a little bit of inspiration with this on what to build, or what possibilities you have to build your own app. And then Sini will take over, and he will talk about app settings and custom actions, which were just published. So they're kind of fresh out of the oven. Right. So let's get started. Okay, you should be seeing a meter bar chart now.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so the meter bar chart was one of the new components that were released in the last quarter. It allows you to show some sort of progress, how much has been consumed, for example, of a resource. Yeah, percentages, for example. And there's different possibilities of how you can format it, and what other components you can use with it. Like, for example, you can add a tooltip. You also have the possibility, if you have more than one value that you want to display in one bar chart, you have the multi-meter bar chart. So basically the difference is that here, as you can see, there's two values that are being visualized in this component. And again, you have the possibility to customize content here. For example, change the color, change the sizing, add legends, and so on. Then let's take a short look at the histogram chart. So the histogram chart basically allows you to, on a scale, represent how numeric values are distributed. And again, with this, you have certain options to customize. For example, you can adjust the width of each segment. You can show, again, if you have values coming from different sources, you can have them overlap. And you can also stack them.
Sarah, a question. So if I want to check out one of the examples here,
Yes.
What can I do, or what possibilities exist?
Sure. If, for example, you want to build this and you're wondering how to do that, one of the first things you can do is you can click on Show Code, and this will then provide you with a short overview of how this component was built. Basically, what you can see here is the series 1, and below that the series 2. So these are the hard-coded values that will be displayed in my chart. And then further down, this is actually all you need to do to display the data in the component as stack bins. If you want to know even more about how this works, you can also check out the code sandbox. And this will take you to a minimal example of whatever component it is that you're looking at. So this is not only available for the histogram chart, but for all the components in the design system.
So basically, wherever you see this open sandbox link, right?
Yes. So yeah, let's just, while this loads, as you can see, for every example, there is a show code button and a code sandbox button. And you can just, and here again, and for each example, it will show how this particular example is done specifically. Well, today is not our day, but let's continue to the next component that I want to show you. Or it's not actually a new component. It's just some functionalities that were added to the data table component. So what's possible now is to configure table actions. So as you can see here, I can define actions that will affect the whole table. And I can also define actions that will affect a whole row. For example, I can select different rows, and then I can click here on delete rows, and they would be gone in that case. So yeah, that's also 2 new additions that have happened to the data table. And something else that's not quite new, but we thought it would be cool to point out, is that you can also download the data from a table. So yeah, let's just check this out. It's possible to use the toolbar and use the download data item. And this then, that's a small button here, allows you to download all the contents of the table. And here you can see that it's also possible to customize the way this looks. And again, if we click on show code here, we get a small overview of the data that's in there and the implementation. Yeah. That's actually it from my side. Are you ready?
Yes,
Do you
I
have
am,
any questions left?
Not yet, but your video again froze.
Oh, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, I didn't notice immediately. So maybe you stop sharing, and then I can jump to this 2 new features we released, to app settings and custom actions.
Great. Yep, sorry. Go ahead.
Good. I hope you can see my web browser.
Yes,
Awesome.
I can see your store
So
app settings is what
exactly,
you're
exactly. So with the last month, what we have released as part of the App Engine are one big feature. It's called App Settings. And what is this basically? So basically, you can provide some user-facing app settings as part of your app. As part of the settings, you have to define a schema. It's basically how your settings look like. Maybe you want to store some, maybe your app connects to some third-party API, and you want to store maybe some credential details. And maybe you also want to store some secrets if you connect to some external services within your app. So you can also use app settings to store secrets when you want to reach out, to store just credentials. And for that one, we have this new page guide, Store App Settings, where you will find all details about how to use app settings, and even with quite some examples. And one benefit, a set of app settings is the Dynatrace provides you also an out-of-the-box UI for those app settings. So you don't have to take care about the UI, and I will show you a bit later in a demo how this looks like. So app settings, something people have been waiting for, so has been released last month. And the other important release we had in the last month was the possibility to create custom actions. So what are custom actions? If you are familiar with Dynatrace workflows, you might have noticed that you can that you have some action catalog, some action catalog, and that you can drag the actions and to be used in your workflow. And there are some apps which you can install, which have in the Dynatrace sub, which have already some custom some actions within them. And now what we are offering you guys is the possibility to create your own custom actions and make use of them in Dynatrace workflow. And therefore, I have a quick demo prepared. So I have a workflow and a custom workflow action. I have created a workflow and a custom workflow action. And basically, what I have here, maybe some of you guys are aware of the Star Wars API. So this public mock API available. And I have created just an action, custom action, where I enter as input the resource type and the resource ID of one of those characters or elements in the Star Wars universe. And the custom action basically will call this API, fetch the data, and then it's available within my workflow. And as a next step, what I've added to it, so first I'm querying that information, then I make use of that information. I just query it via my custom action and send the info to myself or to any kind of email. So on the right-hand side, what you see basically, it's the UI. So what I've created as part of my custom app, and just added a set, the resource type and the ID. And as a next action, I said I'm using the send email action, which we also just recently released. And I'm sending an email to some email service. And I can adjust things like subject and the message. And maybe let's adjust it a bit so that it's distinguished. So I'm fetching here some planets from the Star Wars API. And I want to have in the subject like planet and planet name. And with some description. And if I run my custom action, it takes, when I last did it, 7 seconds approximately for the API call and sending the email. This time actually 11 seconds. And then I will go to my email service, and you will see there, hey, we see an email from no reply Dynatrace apps. and actually exactly what I've sent. So basically the JSON of the email or of the API, and in the subject actually the planet name. So just quick
Nice.
mock, yeah, just quick mock how you can use custom actions. Sarah, you have some questions?
Yeah, actually, I would be interested, like, if I wanted to use a custom action in a different app, can I reuse it, or would I have to rewrite it? I mean, because the logic that you put in there just now wasn't so much, but what if it was more logic?
So basically, yeah, I will come to that in a bit.
Okay,
But
cool.
basically, yeah, what's behind the custom actions, and it's an API as well. And APIs are usually accessible outside of the Dynatrace platform, so you can make use of this API also outside of the Dynatrace platform. Yeah. So maybe just quickly to show you what I forgot to mention. So this is custom actions, and maybe you have seen I use here some connection picker. And actually what the connection picker is, this is something I am storing in settings. So maybe you want to access, maybe you want to make your API call configurable. And what I did here, I've created an internal URL of the Star Wars API and an external one. And on clicking this button, we will be forwarded to the Dynatrace settings screen of my app, of my, yeah, I've called it now my Office Hours demo. And here you have your settings. And here you see, for instance, so I have defined, okay, what is my public URL of my Star Wars API? And it's just a public URL and easily configurable with settings. I see Rebecca has raised her hand in Zoom. Maybe Rebecca, if you have a question, just use the Q&A feature on the bottom. I guess it's on the bottom of your screen. And please ask a question there if there are any questions. Yeah, that was, let's say, the theoretical, I mean, the demo part. And I have also can quickly show you how it looks like in VS Code. And I hope you can see my screen properly, Sarah.
Yes.
Awesome. So maybe I will stop it. I have it run. I had it running. Yeah. How you create a custom action? Basically, the app toolkit has a command create custom action. You just run the app toolkit with this command. And what the app toolkit does for you, it creates already quite some boilerplates. So if you want to create a custom action, the app toolkit creates actually the actions folder and the settings folder per default. And it adds quite some boilerplate you don't have to take care of. More details are in the description of the Dynatrace developer, in Dynatrace developer. For instance, the UI part, what we all have been seeing in workflows, is covered here in a file called whatever our action is called. I've called it now query swampy. So it's called your name.widget.tsx. And here's, for instance, see, yeah, my connection picker and also my form where I've entered the resource ID, the resource and the ID. And on top of that, it's also generated because we make use of settings. Also, all relevant parts, let's say, to make use of those settings are being created. And also some boilerplate settings schema. Again, further details about how to build it, you can find on Dynatrace Developer. Yeah, and by developing locally, what I can show you actually, you just run the app locally. And yeah, it will take a couple of seconds. And we offer you also a URL, a dedicated URL, with which you can make use of your custom action locally. So as you see, once you have added a custom action to your Dynatrace project, you will see a local host URL. And if I open that one, it should actually, where's my Chrome window? Yeah, here we have it. You see this UI, what I've just shown you in the deployed custom action.
Cindy, can you maybe jump back so that people who didn't get a good look before can compare the actual app with just this UI part?
Yep. So you mean those two screens, I guess?
Yes, basically. So what I see here on the right-hand side of the screen, that small part of the UI, you can directly access and then just have it all over the whole screen. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you don't have to deploy your app to try and test your action locally.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. So if you're interested into it, please feel free to check out our guides about custom actions and about app settings. So as said, with app settings, where was it? With app settings, we have also a UI delivered out of the box, so you don't have to take care about it. You can also store their secrets, which will be then masked in the UI. And also, yeah, check out our guide about custom actions.
But so basically that means that whatever I define in my app settings file will be visible not directly in my app. So it's not something that my users would be able to change, but that I'm able to change on the back end, so to speak.
Yes, so when it comes to permissions, you can generally define who can change your app settings and who cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So with let me jump back to the settings. So with the settings, what you have to define is a setting schema, and a setting schema has some kind of an ID. You have to give it actually a schema ID. And what you can do with Dynatrace policies and permissions, you can create a policy which limits a certain group of users to be able to read or write this kind of schema. So yes, with having a schema in place, you can define policies and find granular permissions.
Okay, cool. Because you already mentioned secrets, and secrets is not something that I would want to share at large, right? So that's something that only I ideally want to access.
Yeah. Yeah, you have it on a page. So but we've also added some kind of security feature. So once so I'm just opening now this sample settings schema, and in the sample settings schema, there we show how you would store, let's say, some URL and some access token. And what you also can change, what you also can say, hey, if you change, for instance, the URL, you have to retype the token.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a security mechanism, yes, just to make sure, on changing.
That no one in the background can change my URL without me at least having to resubmit some information so that it stays protected.
Exactly. So it's up to you how you define your settings schema. If, I don't know, a change of the URL also requires a resubmission of a token of your credentials. So it's up to you how you want to design your setting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for those in-depth explanations of how to use these two cool new features that we have. Please also feel free to ask any questions if you have them. Because yeah, that's that would be our next part. There have been no questions yet. So I guess we'll just talk out of the box for a little bit. As I said, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them on us now. Otherwise, we'll just think of something that interesting that we want to tell you, and might end up giving you back a little bit of your time. Sini, any other interesting new things that have happened that you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, many interesting things. Let's say maybe we can teaser the audience to some upcoming changes in the future.
That.
Yeah. So for the next weeks, we've prepared some new content on the Dynatrace developer. And stay tuned. There will be some new training material, some new, let's just say training material, some new experiences, which we are currently working on and should be, as said, released in the next weeks, definitely before our next webinar session.
Yes. And as with any good TV series, we'll have to tell you to stay tuned to actually be able to find out what that content is.
Yeah. So I would say, Sarah, since there are no questions, we can wrap up the session.
That sounds like a good plan. Let me maybe just remind you very shortly and quickly of the resources that we do have for anybody who's interested in developing apps or starting out to develop apps. If you're already into your project and desperate because there are some obstacles in your way, let's put it like that, you can head over to the developer Q&A forum. There's other developers there, and we are also there to help you with questions that you might have regarding app development. Obviously, as already mentioned, and as Sina and I both showed today, we have the Dynatrace developer docs that has new content coming up, don't forget. And yes, as I already mentioned, our next office hours will be on Tuesday, April 16th, again at 3:30 or 3:30 p.m. if you're in Europe, and 9:30 p.m. if you're, by then our schedules should have equalized again. Yes. For the Eastern US. Yes, that's it from our side. Thank you for dropping in. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.
Ciao.